The moment I filed for divorce, the weight that had been pressing on my chest for months finally began to lift. For weeks, I had been trapped in a relentless storm of uncertainty, plagued by sleepless nights and questions that refused to be answered. But as I handed the papers to my attorney, a strange and unexpected calm washed over me. This wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the beginning of reclaiming my life. Her name is Laura. For 10 years, she was my wife, my partner, my best friend, or at least that's what I had believed. From the outside, our life appeared enviable. We had a beautiful home in the suburbs, 2 incredible children, and a marriage that others often admired. I worked hard as a project manager at a tech firm, ensuring financial stability for our family, while Laura had a part-time job at an art gallery, a passion she had nurtured for years. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. More importantly, I had always thought we were happy. Then came the text. It was late, long past midnight. Laura had gone to bed hours earlier, leaving me in the living room, catching up on work. My phone vibrated on the coffee table, but it wasn't a message for me. It was a notification from her phone, left charging in the kitchen. Something in my gut twisted as I glanced at the screen. Derek, can't stop thinking about tonight. You were incredible. When can I see you again? For a moment, I just stared, the words blurring together as my pulse pounded in my ears. My hands turned clammy, a cold, slow rage creeping into my veins. Derek. I knew that name. He was a regular at the gallery, a wealthy art collector who had always seemed just a little too interested in Laura's work. I had met him once, shaken his hand at one of her exhibitions, and even then, something about his grin had felt off, too self-assured, too smug. Now I knew why. The urge to storm into our bedroom and confront her on the spot nearly overwhelmed me, but a quiet, insistent voice in the back of my mind held me back. Not yet. Instead, I took a screenshot of the message, sent it to my own phone, then carefully deleted the notification. That night, I didn't return to our bed. I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with possibilities. By morning, I had a plan. For the next 2 weeks, I became an actor in my own life. I smiled, laughed at the right moments, pretended nothing had changed, while secretly collecting every piece of evidence I could find. I hired a private investigator, an old-school detective named Mike who had seen more betrayals than he cared to count. It didn't take him long to give me exactly what I needed. Photos, timestamps, receipts, proof of secret meetings at a boutique hotel downtown. Laura and Derek had been seeing each other for months. When I finally confronted her, I braced myself for denial, for tears, for desperate apologies. What I didn't expect was laughter, a nervous, almost dismissive chuckle, like she had just been caught sneaking an extra dessert. "Come on, Nick," she said, shaking her head. "It was a mistake. A little mistake. It didn't mean anything. A mistake." As if months of deception, stolen moments, and whispered lies could be brushed away with a single word. As if she had simply tripped and fallen into another man's bed. I didn't yell. I didn't break down. I didn't even argue. I just turned and walked away. The following weeks blurred together in a haze of legal meetings and quiet, burning anger. Laura, in her arrogance, seemed to believe I would eventually forgive her, that I would come to my senses and we would move past it. She had no idea. I had no intention of playing the fool. The first step was the divorce papers. My attorney, Melissa, was a force to be reckoned with, sharp, relentless, and utterly unmoved by Laura's casual justifications. We made sure the documents were airtight. As the primary breadwinner, I knew that under normal circumstances, Laura would have been entitled to a significant share of our assets. But late one night, as I scoured through our old documents, I discovered something she had clearly forgotten: our prenuptial agreement. And it had an infidelity clause. Buried in the fine print, it stated that if either spouse was unfaithful, they forfeited any claim to the other's income or property acquired during the marriage. Laura hadn't just broken my trust. She had broken the one legal safeguard that could have secured her future. And now, she was about to walk away with nothing. Laura had signed it without hesitation all those years ago, back when we were young and in love, unable to imagine a future where we'd ever need such a thing. Now, as she stood before me, clutching the divorce papers in trembling hands, the blood drained from her face. "What is this?" she demanded, waving the documents at me as if they were a personal betrayal. I met her gaze, my voice steady and cold. "It's what you earned," she sputtered, the confident, charming woman I had once known unraveling before my eyes. "You can't be serious." This is ridiculous. We're a family. You can't just cut me off. A family? I echoed, tilting my head as I studied her. Is that what you were thinking about when you were sneaking off to meet Derek? Her defiance faltered, her shoulders slumping as desperation took hold. It didn't mean anything, she whispered, as if repeating the lie would somehow make it true. But the divorce was only the beginning. For years, Laura had carefully curated the image of our perfect marriage. She had been the one to manage our household's social calendar, the one who ensured we were always surrounded by friends, always attending the right parties, always presenting ourselves as the couple others admired. She had thrived on it, on the dinner parties, the playdates, the effortless illusion of domestic bliss. That illusion was about to be shattered. I never needed to announce the affair outright. I simply let the truth reveal itself. When friends and family asked about the divorce, I told them about the prenuptial agreement and the infidelity clause that had sealed Laura's fate. And when they inevitably asked why I was invoking it, I showed them the proof. The texts, the photos, the receipts. Word spread like wildfire. Shock rippled through our social circles. Friends who had once laughed with us over shared meals now looked at Laura with quiet judgment. Her parents, who had once adored me, were devastated. Even the mothers in our kids' school carpool, women who had always admired Laura's poise, began to whisper behind her back, their smiles a little tighter, their greetings a little colder. She tried to fight back. Of course she did. She accused me of being vindictive, of orchestrating a campaign to ruin her life. But every desperate attempt to twist the narrative only made her look worse. The truth was undeniable, and with every passing day, her world crumbled further. The final blow came during the custody battle. Laura had assumed she would be granted primary custody of our children. After all, she had been their main caregiver while I worked long hours, providing for the family. But Melissa and I had prepared for this. The evidence of her affair, combined with the erratic, volatile behavior she had displayed in the aftermath of our separation, painted a damning picture. A picture of someone whose judgment was deeply flawed. Someone who could not provide the stable, nurturing home our children deserved. The judge agreed. When the ruling was announced, awarding me full custody, Laura stormed out of the courtroom in a fury, her face twisted with disbelief and rage. She confronted me in the parking lot, her voice shrill with anger, hurling accusations, screaming obscenities. I didn't flinch. I didn't respond. I simply stood there, unmoved, watching as she exhausted herself in a tempest of fury that no longer had any power over me. For the first time in months, perhaps even years, I felt truly free. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work, into fatherhood, into the hobbies I had long abandoned in the name of being a good husband. The house felt quieter, but it also felt lighter, as if a lingering weight had finally been lifted. I even started seeing a therapist, someone who helped me unpack the anger, the betrayal, the grief I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Slowly, I was reclaiming the pieces of myself I had lost along the way. As for Laura, she moved into a small apartment across town, her once polished reputation now tarnished beyond repair. Derek disappeared almost immediately, unwilling to linger now that the affair was no longer a secret. She tried to pick up the pieces, to salvage what was left, but the damage had been done. Her little mistake was one she would never live down. Months after the divorce was finalized, she called me. Her voice, once so confident, was hesitant now. Small, almost unrecognizable. "Nick," she murmured. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." I didn't answer right away. Once, I had longed to hear those words. Had spent sleepless nights hoping she would understand the weight of what she had done. Now they meant nothing. "I hope you find peace, Laura," I said finally. And then I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine again. And that was enough.